But then the other thing he said to me is that allow yourself to be surprised. Because GM roles will surprise you every day.
I want to understand, your career trajectory. By the way, you paint such a beautiful picture. It's clear. I can understand. I can see you with on the ground with the dealers, the distributors. I can see you speaking to the board with the shareholders. I can see that whole trajectory in which you've gotten here. But there's one side. I keep telling you, there's two sides of the coin. Life.
Yeah.
What happens to normal life? Are you married at this time? Are you dating?
Yeah.
Are you?
So I got married before I became CFO.
Yeah, there was somebody.
Just after my sales, just around the time I was finishing my sales career, I actually met my wife in breweries, in East Africa breweries. She was in marketing, I was in sales. So I got married just before I became CFO.
Nice.
And then so of course now life changes. In a way being CFO was a stabilizing factor, because effectively now it's back to the corporate side, and it is a much more stable, predictable.
Yes.
While sales, you are everywhere around the country and you are doing all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it's as well, but it's purely coincidental. And so I remember, that's also the time when there was an election issue.
Ooh, 2007.
2007. I remember I was in sales, and you are still required to deliver your sales numbers despite all these issues that are happening. So you start to learn. You actually start also to learn how do we incorporate. When you said big moments in the country, how do you make sure that you're always alert and aware of what's happening and how that impacts your business, especially when your business is so large and you have such large share. We also had very large share and much larger share than in Safaricom. Breweries used to have still does, a much larger share.
What do you mean?
Of the alcohol industry. Remember when SEB Miller was here?
You
get what I mean? So, so your instruments to change are fewer, because you can't say, "Oh, I'll deal with the competition," or I will do the following, or I'll take a few shares. What I mean by dealing with the competition is I can increase my ability to take a few few share points from my competition. But in a way, those prepares you. Those moments actually prepares you for more senior roles, because then you kind of say, I've seen this movie before. Yes, and I remember actually and I still apply it in Safaricom. I remember when I was at when we was at the breweries, we got a company called McKinney Rogers. They use a philosophy called mission leadership, like in the military.
Yeah.
So you are going to lead a mission to, say, in Somalia or whatever. So it was someone who trained, actually Kenyan-born, UK, British, who trained in the military, in the British military, and then eventually left to form this company. But basically they use the military philosophy in business to say, how do you lead from a mission philosophy perspective? So we would ignore the budgets that we've been given by the company, and then we would say, here is our mission. And the mission will always be bigger than the budget. And the mission says, you tell people the what and the why, yeah, and then you allow them to determine the how, which is the way the military works.
Yeah.
And everyone has a role. Every military, every single unit has a role. There's no small or larger. I remember before the elections, we had that mission thing, and we did a war game, yeah. And we had war game, different scenarios. What about if elections didn't happen well and all these things? What about if there was problems? And we used that as a way of ensuring that we got a better outcome after elections. And we didn't know there was going to be a problem. And that philosophy, we've used it, and many companies use it in Kenya. But even in Safaricom, we use mission to lead, because it gives a lot more freedom. But also then you can scenario plan, like the military guys always dress rehearsal. They can never go for an operation without actually doing a dress rehearsal. In corporate life, we just go in and assume that it will work. So you kind of learn that you can use some of these philosophies to, and I learned when I was in strategy, I applied it in sales, and eventually in finance.
But that mission strategy
that was
didn't really help when it came to COVID. And we'll come to that.
We'll talk about COVID. We'll talk about COVID.
Could you plan COVID happening? Like, was that ever even a scenario? Okay, we'll talk about COVID.
No, not really in terms of COVID, but how do you deal with crisis?
Okay.
Remember, because it's just severity of the crisis, but it's still a crisis. And it's the difference with COVID, it was global, an extended period, which is not usually likely. You say, what is the likely and severity when it occurs? But in terms of the philosophy and principles of dealing with crisis, still the same.
Okay.
Like daily meetings, being pragmatic, making decisions on the go, helping, elevating yourself, helping the country. We did a lot of that when I came in and we had this COVID thing.
No, I mean, I threw that in, but I really like how you've countered me, because I'm hearing you planning these different scenarios.
Yes.
And in my head, I immediately went to, but who would in the world would have thought COVID happens? But what you're telling me is some of these foundational things are the same.
Yeah.
But let's go into now you become CEO.
So so first of all, I get married.
Yes.
So life changes. There's someone who tells me, what time are you coming home? Yeah. Then, I became CFO in 2008. So because I was in sales in 2005 and 6. No, 6, 7. And then 2008, sometime towards the end of the year, I became CFO. So I'm married, I'm CFO, so much more responsibilities, no longer the bachelor. and then now you have to explain where you are. Explain where you are, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And then, of course, we got our son in 2009. So now you have a family. Now that changes it. The minute children shows up, now previously you could actually say, "Oh, let me just take a year off." In a way, you're taught you've worked so hard for your career, so you can't really take a year off because it will drift. It will make your career drift. But you have, if I needed, I could. But once you get married, once you start to realize now it's not just me, not just my extended family, but it's also my immediate family that now my wife and child. So therefore, have to be responsible, so to say. And but then CFO role stabilizes. Really good experience. Also now start to expand the dimensions of leadership, not just functional, but also stakeholders, shareholders. Bring together all the elements I've learned, because CFO is a role that can allow you to actually utilize a lot of what the skills you've learned. So actually, that's one of the roles that I felt I could utilize most of the skills that I had learned. Because when you're making finance decisions, they have commercial implications, strategic, all those elements. Yeah. Then in 2011, I interviewed for the role in Ghana as Guinness Ghana as managing director. Same level as the group finance director, but now it's a GM promotion. I mean, it's a GM move. So I knew it's a big. Are
your superiors telling you, I think you should do this?
No, you see, they are to be fair, Diageo was very good in leadership training. So we did a big leadership intervention in 2007, 2008. It was called Diageo Leadership Performance Program, that was to prepare. It was actually targeted at 1,000 people across the world, and to prepare people for future roles and leadership and it is based on the leadership standard that the company wanted. Like something like being authentic, delivering great performance. Stuff like looking after customers. All those elements. But basically, the actual development on the leadership side was very good. But the biggest development, I always say to people, is the roles you get, the roles you do. Those are the ones that disrupt how you think. Going to sales disrupted how I thought. Coming back to finance after sales disrupted how I thought. If I had come into finance before sales, I would have been a pure finance person, probably with a bit of strategy. But here I was strategy, sales, finance, background, advisory. So, and I had already, and we were always pushed to say, what is the career path you want? And I had already, the reason I went to sales is because I wanted a GM career. So then we were in the GM pipeline. They call it pipeline.
Yes.
Then all of you are interviewed. So I got this role. Very good role. First CEO role.
Wow. And you're going abroad.
And in a foreign country.
Yes.
So I always say in careers, you have to think about dimensions of transition that you are making. So like when I was transitioning from PwC to EABL, I was transitioning from professional practice to industry. So I needed to learn how industry operates. I was getting a new role, but the actual content was similar to the advisory work I was doing. So not as much transition. And I was transitioning to a different environment where people are not knowledge-based and are not as competent in terms of various, the profession, it's very graded. Now here, I'm transitioning to CEO, so new dimension of leadership, completely new. I've never been a CEO. Transitioning country, so you are leading in a new country. And then transitioning family.
Yeah.
So, in the UK, I could actually come up to or out of a pub and then just go and pick up my luggage and go to the UK. But here, you have to plan. First of all, you have to go alone, see how it is, settle.
Wow.
Bring madam, they see the house. Is it works? Schools, do they work? All those things. And then now once you are happy with that, within a few months, then they come and join you. That's the way you transition if you are going on an overseas secondment. So you are having, there's a very many dimensions of transition, and each of them could create failure.
Wow. So
if your family is not happy, you're in trouble. I can tell you. That is the first whatever. And one of the reasons actually I always traveled with family, because I remember when you were young, my father was always away. So I didn't know that story, kind of thing. So, but
that's so powerful.
Yeah, but transitioning family is tough because you are uprooting people. At least my son was very young. My wife was working. There was the company she was working with was also had an office in in Ghana. So that was good.
Okay.
So she could transition there, and Ghana is a very safe country. So family-wise, you are not worried. So the thing, you kind of stabilize. The work front was new role. Again, rookie CEO. By the way, it does not matter how much, I remember I asked the guy who was the head of president for Africa, for Diageo, and he was president for Africa and I think Turkey and India or something. Then I asked him, give me advice. I'm going to Ghana, new CEO. He told me, Peter, you've been very successful and you've done a number of functions. You've been in sales, finance, advisory, strategy, etc. When you go into CEO, you are not the functional head. So don't try and do the sales or the strategy or the finance role just because you know them. That's not your role. Your role is
Leadership.
CEO. It's a leadership of all these experts. So recruit the best into those roles that you know. So I've always recruited very good people in the functions that I understand more. Yeah, because then you won't tell them what to do because now they will lead. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've always had very strong CFOs. Generally try, not always successful, always try to get great commercial people, and always try to get great strategy, etc., whatever. But anyway, that was advice. But then the other thing he said to me is that allow yourself to be surprised. Because GM roles will surprise you every day. So you'll go into the office, you'll find there's people are planning to strike. You'll go into the office or find that dealers are not happy. You'll go into the office and find probably there's an accident and you've lost an employee. So fatality. You'll go into the office and probably find that the targets that you thought you could hit, you are well off track. Or there's a big fraud, you know. And each of those, although they have a functional owner, still come to your desk. So if you do not allow yourself the freedom to be surprised, you will go mentally. Mentally, you will not succeed because emotionally, you will be up and down. So you just allow yourself to say, it's part of running the business. All these issues is part of running the business. Of course, you need a risk framework of understanding. You need to understand your business and so on and so forth. And actually, basically, the best you can do, he told me, is to reduce the surprises. But you can't eliminate the surprises.
It's part of
your JD. It is part of JD. As soon as you are CEO or general manager, they all come to your desk. And when someone feels something is too hot, they'll send you an email, or they'll come and tell you, here is the issue. And they'll tend to come when there's a big problem. So he said to me, just keep yourself emotionally stable. As in, look after yourself, because then I always say to people, this is me now saying, if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after others. So if you're feeling tired, if you're not rested, if you don't sleep well, I told you, I would prefer sleep than preparing. Yes. If you're not physically fit, then it will show up in
mentally.
So that's why I've always been physically very active. Never been a great sleeper, but I've improved it over the years by training myself. And it is not because of how big the next day is, because I have issues every day. So if I was to not sleep because of how big the next day is, I will not sleep every day. It is just purely, some people are predisposed. But actually I sleep better now than I used to sleep in the past. But it is identified that you have those elements that keep you sane. And it is physical fitness, sleep, diet, which includes also kind of weight and what you are eating, and then your emotional state. Are you stressed? How do you keep yourself kind of rooted so despite all that advice.
That's the place we're waiting for.
Despite all that advice, I still made rookie errors. The rookie mistakes of CEO. And one of the rookie mistakes of CEO, this thing that I told you about 8 months in, and then you have 4 months remaining. CEOs are worse. CEOs will say, I'll deliver 20. I'll hit target. I'll just recover. I'm telling you, new CEOs, and I've seen it because now I actually, some CEOs report to me, or have reported to me, or heads of business units or whatever. They will always make that mistake. And it doesn't matter who tells you what. Yeah. And then the whole thing about the third advice, and the reason why I got that advice, I wanted real advice, is you're going into uncharted territory. And that's also one of the things I always say, don't think you know. Just because you've been appointed to role, you don't know. You're starting afresh. It's like a kid starting to learn a new language. So he told me the third thing he said to me is, make talent decisions early.
Make talent.
Yes, like people decisions.
Yes.
So like if you have a problem with your sales director, make that decision if you think you have a problem. He told me everyone makes them late. And I always, at least in the first 2 years, always made them late. Because you think, oh yeah, I'm going to turn this person around. You know, sometimes you blame yourself, you know, did I make the wrong choice and so on and so forth. Talent decisions, generally people always make them behind the curve rather than ahead.
Wow.
When either to put the right, it's not just firing the wrong person, it's also to put the right person. Like for example, a role may be vacant. Then you say, well, we'll handle it, isn't it? For 6 months. You can put an acting person for 6 months, we'll handle it. Yet you should be appointing the person who...
The right person.
The right person. Make it now or yesterday, than make it tomorrow or the day after. Because it will haunt you. And I was haunted, and I've been haunted even up to now. You are haunted, as a CEO, you'll always be haunted by talent decisions that are made late. So if there was an advice I would give CEOs or general managers, or even big functional heads, is talent is decisions, or people decisions are the most difficult. But there is no one else who is going to come and make them. It is only you. And if you don't make them and some people come, they are telling you you are going to leave very quickly. Because by the time people have come to make decisions for you, like for example, change your finance director, change your HR director,
they're doing your job.
They are basically telling you they are doing your job. Or if your line manager came in and tell you, I'm going to change your person there, because either you have been too slow, or they are the wrong person, or the role is vacant. And many times we have all these vacant roles, and sometimes there is genuine reasons. There's no one who can really do that role because of the skills that are required, especially in the technology world. There are some skills that are just like AI. I mean, you're not going to put someone who doesn't understand AI to learn AI. So those are understandable, but by and large, especially commercial roles, we all, I mean, and I've, despite all the learnings, I still wobble. and you know, the people, you know, when people look at me in the business, they say, this guy is so aggressive in making these decisions. Can't he just wait? Can he give? But actually, that time, you know, you should have made it 9 months ago. But actually, sometimes, many times, if you walk around the corridor or talk to the right people, they will tell you. You will know whether you made the right decision. Because people will say, well, actually, it was about time. Yeah, should have been done. You know, those kind of, and then confront. Like for example, what so when I went to Ghana,
yes,
now my own experience now. So first of all, I took over from a chap who was Nigerian.